What's good guys, Zennosh here, and today in this video of Genshin Impact, I'm here to present you guys tier list of characters. This tier list is based on the performance of characters in their respective roles in various aspects of the game. By the way, please do check for the timestamps in the description section below for quicker access to this video. And now, let's get this started. Let's start with Amber. I will be placing her in D tier. For the beginners, she can be very handy with her skill sets. As a pyro user, she can help a lot in burning the opponents and various things that could be hindering our progress in the game. She is also a very good companion to our traveler, who is an anemo user. They can combo together with their elemental effects to deal more damage and cause swirl effect. Her elemental burst skill is simply a shower of fire arrows, which deals pretty good damage while setting anything in the area on fire. She can be fun to use as a beginner, but will soon start to get less effective in the battles later on. Next character is Barbara. I will be placing her in A tier. Just cause you got her for free does not mean that you can look down upon her. Some players would even love to place her in S tier, as her skills are very useful to sustain your team very effectively. She is one of the few healers in the game. It's pretty essential to have a healer in your team, as healing your whole party can be very hard without a healer character. With high elemental skill and elemental burst, she can heal the entire party real fast. Her elemental skill provides a melody effect which can inflict weight status on the nearby opponents. This melody can be transferred to another character in the battle as well, which could provide you an option to inflict various elemental reactions like freeze on the opponents. More the HP she has, more the healing she will provide. With such great healing capabilities, she is very useful character in every contents in the game like exploration, bosses and dungeon fights. Next character is Beidou. I will be placing her in C tier. Even though she is meant to be a DPS character, she just can't deal good damage to opponents like other DPS Claymore users. She is a very rare character in the game who can counterattack the enemies. As an Electro Element user, she can be paired with Pyro, Cryo and Hydro Element users for awesome AoE damages. But it's not quite easy to combo her with other party members. Her elemental burst can provide her a buff that will cause lightning to arc between enemies on normal and charged attacks. With this buff effect, she will have increased resistance to being interrupted, and this can make her quite effective in dealing continuous damage on opponents. She can be quite helpful in exploration, but you might want to substitute her in other sectors like Dungeon and Abyss. Next character is Bennett. I will be placing him in B tier. He is known to grant a lot of buffs to himself. His unique elemental skill mechanics work differently compared to other characters. He can deliver different level of powerful fire strikes with his sword depending upon how long you press his elemental skill button. With this elemental burst skill, he can provide good healing and attack bonus to the party members. He can also grant pyro element effect to another character. Thanks to short cooldowns on his skills, he can be very effective in the battle. But as his own attack can launch him away from the battle after triggering Pyro Explosion, you might want to switch to better characters like Diluc or Xiangling to maintain continuous barrage of damage on the opponents. He is very helpful in exploration, but it can be a wise decision to substitute him when you are fighting in Abyss, dungeons or boss battles. Next character is Chongyun, and I will be placing him in B tier. He is an unique hero that can convert his raw strength into elemental damage. His elemental skill can create a Cryo AoE, but then also creates a frost field as well. In that field, every melee attack will cause Cryo damage. This effect makes him a great supporter character, while his elemental burst skill is just 3 large AoE Cryo attack hits. His main use is to turn high melee damage into Cryo. Other than that, he is not that superb unit in the battlefield to trade off blows with opponents. He can excel very great in boss fights, but in other sectors, he is better to be substituted. Next character is Diluc. I will be placing him in S tier. He is a very impressive character that can dish out very high damage combo attacks on the opponents. With his Claymore, he can deal heavy damage on opponents with his normal hit combos, and his charged attack can deal continuous barrage of damage on the enemies. The best thing about Diluc is that his elemental skill can deal up to 3 hits of pyro slashes ahead of him with very short cooldown of 10 seconds only. His elemental burst can deal explosive damage on opponents that can also leave pyro effect on his weapon for 8 seconds. With his combination of high damage and pyro effects, he can easily nail down opponents pretty fast. He is super fantastic unit in boss fights, dungeons and abyss. If you ever manage to get him, hold him real tight. Next character is Fischl. I will be placing her in A tier for now. She is so good that a lot of players would definitely want to see her in S tier as well. She is well known for her electro attacks that can help to set up many possible elemental reactions. Her elemental skill is one of the best out there, with which she can summon an electric raven that will deal electro damage to nearby opponents for 10 seconds. Even when switching to another character, the raven will still stay around, allowing to create various elemental combinations like overload and superconduct. Her burst skill can convert her into a giant raven, with which she can have impressive mobility around the battlefield while inflicting enemies in her path with electro status effect. Most of the DPS characters can easily capitalize on all of Fischl abilities, and that makes her very impressive support unit. She is a great unit in boss fights, abyss and dungeon battles. As a con, she herself cannot deal impressive damage and has to be paired up with strong characters like Diluc, who can take full advantage of her skill sets. Next character is Jin. I will be placing her in A tier. Personally, she is my favorite and she is a great help for beginners as she can deal massive damage while providing a very good heal for entire party. Our elemental skill can easily cause various swirl effects with other elements while dealing impressive damage with a good knockback on multiple enemies. With only 6-second cooldown, her elemental skill is super spammable. Her elemental burst skill can provide superb heal to all party members that can help you to recover your team from any pinch condition in battle. On top of that, enemies will take heavy damage as well. As a con, she is an anemo element user, which does not provide impressive elemental reaction combos. She is a superb unit to take into abyss fights, while in other contents she performs pretty good as well. Next character in the list is Kaeya. I will be placing him in B tier. Honestly, he's one of my favorite characters who can easily combo with hydro and electro elemental attacks. With proper uses, he can easily subdue the opponents with freeze effects. Thanks to his elemental burst skill, he can deal continuous gyro damage to nearby enemies. You can even switch him with another character while his elemental burst effect is on effect for various elemental reactions possibilities. With his upgrades, he can heal with skill damage and improve his crit rate stats as well. But his upgrades are not quite enough to keep up with late game contents. I personally found him super helpful in exploration, but he might struggle in other battle modes. Next character is Keqing, and I will be placing her in A tier for now. She is a very interesting 5-star character that excels with fast-paced electro attacks with her sword. She can build up charges to deal massive damages on opponents. She can inflict an opponent with Stiletto Mark, with which she can easily teleport to its location, slashing and dealing AoE electro damage. With her elemental burst, she can deal quite strong electro AoE damage. With her heavy uses of electro AoE attacks, it's very easy to combo with other characters to create various elemental reactions on AoE scale. She is a great unit overall, and you can take her in every content for easy electro combo attacks like Overload and Superconduct. The next character is Klee. I will be placing her in B tier for now. To start with, even her normal attacks can deal AoE damage. She is very effective in controlling large crowd of enemies with her explosive skill, Jumpy Dumpty, that will explode multiple times before turning into smaller mines. But she can't perform good against a smaller group or single enemy. Her burst skill just does further pyro explosive damages. She is pretty awesome in boss fights, while she might be a lackluster in other contents. Next character is Lisa, and I will be placing her in C tier. She can be extremely useful when swarm of enemies are on water areas. She is pretty good at crowd control due to her impressive AoE attacks that can be easily triggered in battle. Even her burst skill helps her out a lot with good electro AoE attacks with an impressive range. Even though her moves are quite flashy, she just can't help out with dealing powerful damage to the foes. She can be easily substituted by several other characters in any contents in the game. Next character is Mona. I will be placing her in A tier. As a Hydro Catalyst user, she can deal continuous Hydro damage to the enemies. With her elemental skill, she can create phantom that can provoke opponents and cause explosive damage as well. With her elemental burst, she can affect multiple enemies with illusory bubble status, who will then take more damage and additional hydro damage as well. Even her dash can be used to inflict enemies with weighty status. Thus, she can provide a good opportunity for various hydro-based elemental reactions like Overcharged and Freeze. She is absolutely amazing for exploration and can also provide great advantage in other game modes like dungeons and boss fights. Next character is Ningguang. I will be placing her in C tier. She is a Geo Catalyst user who is usually used for defense purposes. She can erect a Geo Shield which also deals AoE damage upon its creation. Her shield is pretty solid, that is equal to half of her health points. On top of that, when the shield is broken, its cooldown is immediately reset. With her around, you can expect continuous protection from incoming damages. Her elemental burst skill is a simple geo-homing attack, and that's all there is to it. Other than that, she is pretty average. With her defense ability, she is great for exploration, but she may struggle to be of good value in various other game contents like Abyss and Dungeons. Next character is Noelle. I will be placing her in C tier. She is a solid tanky character with some DPS abilities. Her Geo Shield can provide very good protection as well as healing effects to the party. Her elemental burst skill imbues her weapon with Geo effect, with which she can mash larger AoE damages to the opponents. Even though she wields Claymore, she surprisingly lacks damage output. She is quite notable in exploration and Abyss fights. Other than that, she is better to be substituted by other better characters. Next character is Qiqi. I will be placing this 5-star character in S tier. Yes, you heard me right. She is an amazing healer. With her elemental skill effect, her attacks can regenerate HP of entire party while dealing Kaeya damage to nearby enemies as well. With Qiqi around, you can sustain a long time in battle while fully recovering the lost HP of all party members. Her elemental skill effect can open various Kaeya related elemental reaction combos. Her elemental burst also deals good continuous damage to opponents while providing healing effects as well. Her healing is based on her attack stats. As she is a very awesome healer with good damage output, she is very useful in all the contents in the game. Next character is Razor. I will be placing this 4-star character in B tier. As a Claymore DPS character, he can hit enemies pretty hard. His abilities can grant him buffs. His press and hold skill effect can be used to consume the electro sigils for energy, as well as dealing AoE electro damage. Similarly, his elemental burst also consumes electro sigils for energy and allows him to deal faster and harder electro damage on the opponents. As he is more focused in granting buffs to himself, performing combo with other characters can be difficult for various elemental reactions. He is a superb choice for exploration, but he can be a lackluster for other contents in the game. Next character is Sucrose. I will be placing this 4-star character in C tier. She is probably the weakest character among Anemo users. Her elemental skill can pull in the enemies just to launch them away later on. Similarly, her burst skill also pulls in the enemies. Both of her skills can provide swirl effect with Hydro, Pyro, Kaeya and Electro elements during battle. In any content, she can be easily substituted by various other characters in the game. Next character is Traveler. I will be placing our main protagonist in B tier. Traveler is a very unique hero who can switch his elemental affinity between Anemo and Geo elements. This character is designed to deal fast melee attacks. His Anemo skill can help him to cause swirl effects with Hydro, Pyro, Kaeya and Electro attacks, while his Geo attacks can deal AoE damage and creates a place to climb or stand upon. As an Anemo or Geo user, he is pretty limited to low tier elemental reactions and his damage output may not be satisfactory later on. Geo Traveler is pretty helpful in exploration, but both are lackluster in various other contents. Next character is Venti. I will be placing this 5-star character in S tier. Venti is more of a support character rather than a DPS character. He is very good at controlling crowds. With his elemental skill, he can reach higher elevations that can be very helpful in grabbing Animalculus or Geoculus, which would be normally unreachable. On the other hand, with gained elevation, he can follow up immediately with plunged attacks on opponents. With very low cooldown time of 6 seconds, this skill is very spammable. With his elemental burst, he can easily manage large crowd of enemies while creating swirl effects with hydro, pyro, kyro and electro elements. With his two abilities, he can easily control large crowds for a long period of time. This can greatly help you in any fights where you are outnumbered. He is very helpful in every contest in the game. Next character is Xiangling. I will be placing her in A tier. She can deal pretty impressive damage while providing good support as well. With her elemental skill, she can summon Guoba that can inflict opponents in front of it with Pyro. With her elemental burst skill, she can create a Pyronado that will circle her for 10 seconds and can cover the entire battlefield in flames. You can even switch characters without losing Pyronado effect, which then allows you to be creative with various elemental reaction combos. She is incredibly helpful in boss fights and she can be very useful in other contests in the game as well. Next character is Xiao. I will be placing him in A tier. His amazing mobility can be very useful in exploration, but on the other hand, he lacks good damage output with his normal attacks. But he can easily cover up for his low DPS with his elemental burst, with which he can deal larger range and harder attacks with anemo effects, but demands a healer for self-sustenance as his elemental burst skill can constantly drain his HP. He is very useful in wrapping up the fights very quickly, but for prolonged battles, he can gradually lose his effectiveness. He is simply great for any contents out there in the game. Finally, our last character is Xingqiu. I will be placing him in B tier. He can deal good damage while providing amazing support as well. His skills are quite defensive in nature, which reduces the damage taken. With his elemental burst, he can create more swords and make them attack alongside him. These swords can mitigate the incoming damage as well. Even though he seems good, he won't be super helpful in turning the tides of the battle with his abilities. Except for abyss fights, he is really not that effective in other contents. And this is it for today, guys. If you have any questions, insights or opinions regarding this video, please let me know in the comment section below. Please do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and see you guys in the next video.